Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. We have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it's gonna be negativeZero taking on its, well, Protoss counterpart in this match, but it is actually Xena, the random toss bot, or the random bot playing toss. And so, ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this one, make sure to go ahead and click that like button if you haven't already. If we can hit, let's say, 40 likes for 40 seconds on the clock, that would be amazing. And you guys always blow it out of the water. Then leave a comment down below saying more bots, more bagels, more breakfast, whatever it may be, as that does help out with the YouTube algorithm. And subscribe if you haven't already, as we put out daily bot videos on this channel. Alright, so we have seen Xena go for this build quite a bit lately. One base Tempest, or what I believe it's most likely going to be. And yeah, Xena is actually a very good random bot. It's usually quite high up there on the ladder. However, it does seem that negativeZero has got quite a good win rate against Xena. A lot of these bots, they pick their builds based on their win rates against the other bots. It's a very practical approach. And I think that's like, negativeZero has not lost a lot of games against Xena, which is quite darn impressive, if that's the case. And so we're just going to see how well negativeZero does in this one, as we have got negativeZero saying, I'm up against Protoss, as it's scouted out to confirm that Xena was playing Protoss, and then saying toss single base aggressive. So I assume that that's it, scouting Xena being on one base. We do have negativeZero going for a double adept opening that can potentially get some good harassment done at the same time. And the Xena could also just shut this down if it does wall its ramp or something like that. Two cannons at the top of the wall are good against pretty much everything except adepts that comes via the ground. So maybe negativeZero will shade past those cannons, maybe it won't, as there is a Stargate on the way for Xena. It's going to be a while till that Tempest gets produced. We've seen this build a few times, and it's quite good for Xena. It's quite well optimized, but I'm not sure it's like the greatest build in the world. We don't see it all the time in pro matches, and it does have mixed success in these bot games. negativeZero is just powering on one base as a response to this. However, we'll have to watch the anti-air that gets produced as this game goes on. The two adepts are going to be shading up this ramp, cannons and batteries to try and shut this down. Looks like one of the adepts does complete its rush, but oh man, this is not good for Xena, as the probes are just having their mining being denied by these adept shades. Looks like negativeZero actually shades the adepts out of the base, so not realizing how good of a position it was in, it got a lot of denied mining time with that shade, but it could have had oh so much more, as Xena is one of the bots that tends to run its workers away from danger instead of pulling them to fight, which does sometimes have consequences in which it's just completely unprepared to defend in certain situations. Looks like we have the adept shading on in once again, but they don't complete their shade for whatever reason. Xena does now have a Tempest on the way. negativeZero, it says, I'm up against a Sky Toss rush, so it fires up its own Stargate. And a lot of these bot authors have put in the work to counter certain rushes like this. Like, there's a lot of general behavior you can program in your bots in StarCraft 2. You can program them to have good macro, generally good defense, but there is some specific cases where you just have to look at a build and go, right, I need to cook something up to specifically deal with this. The adepts still aren't completing their shade, as negativeZero just continues to use them to scout. The Tempest is out now, though, so it's going to begin shooting at those adepts. negativeZero has got a Nexus building, so that's potentially going to be good for it. Although this Tempest is moving across the map, negativeZero goes for its own fleet beacon, so we will probably have Tempest against Tempest, which is going to be very exciting. Just one Tempest out for now, though, for Xena. The second one is on the way, and it is chrono boosting those out. So the first Tempest crossing the map, we'll see if it gets any damage done. negativeZero has got 3 Stalkers to deal with this. I believe, depending on the micro, 3 Stalkers can beat a Tempest. However, it definitely depends on the micro, the unit positioning, that kind of thing. It is not easy to program your bot to handle Tempest with ground units, which is probably why negativeZero is going for a fleet beacon. Tempest shoots the Immortal first, but now it's starting to work on some of the Stalkers. The Oracle tosses down Revelation. It eats a few shots from the Stalkers, but that is okay as long as it stays alive. And this Tempest, it is trying to hunt down the Stalkers, but we do see that it's fairly slow at actually getting damage done. The Tempest is then actually turning around, seemingly waiting to group up with its friend, but all in all, Xena has invested in these very, very expensive early game Tempest, and they are just not getting that much damage done so far. One Stalker gets bruised up. There it goes down. There's now 2 Tempest out, and it is going to be 2 Tempest against 1 Tempest. The first shot does go to negativeZero, though. The second shot as well. Xena returns fire. negativeZero's Tempest is retreating, waiting for a second Tempest. However, the Stargate is getting shot. That could be quite problematic for the red Protoss bot. negativeZero, it's pulled its Tempest back to a battery. However, it's one of those things. How do you program your bot to understand something as a Tempest versus Tempest dynamic? Right now, negativeZero, if it was controlled by a human, it most certainly would engage, and it is doing so now. 2 Tempest against 2 Tempest. Looks like Xena loses one. negativeZero recalls the other Tempest, which is very interesting. The batteries are definitely doing lots of work for negativeZero, though, as it is able to get 1 Tempest of Xena. It gets the second one. Will we see 1 for 1, though, as Xena's Tempest could fire? negativeZero's Tempest has just regained enough shields, though, to stay alive, and the battery does save it. So good pullback behavior on the Tempest by negativeZero. That's going to put Xena in a very rough position. And I think the red Protoss bot is probably going to take this one, if I had to say, as right now, I mean, look at it, it's 2 Tempest against 4, and Xena, from previous matches I've cast of this Tempest Rush, it doesn't actually go for anything, like, it doesn't build an extra Stargate, it just sort of puts the Tempest out one at a time. It does have the cannon and the battery, which is quite good defensively, but still, just 1 Tempest at a time is not that strong. negativeZero, quite the aggressive bot, is going to be pushing to the other side of the map. The battery could be big. I'm not sure if 4 Tempest with +1 attack will one-shot these Tempest of Xena, or if the shots will even connect properly to make that happen. Xena is retreating to its main base, where it's a little bit safer with its own Tempest. negativeZero is pushing into this natural battery overcharge. Keeping this cannon alive is very important to buy time for Xena, although buy time to what is the question. It does seem that negativeZero has ceased its own Tempest production, and Xena does get a shot off to actually kill one of negativeZero's, and it does get a few more shots off onto the red Protoss's Tempest, so it does pick 2 Tempest off, which gives Xena the lead in the Tempest count, which is very important. negativeZero does go back into Tempest production, so I do wonder if there's some kind of math that means that it's like, hey, I've got more Tempest than my enemy, no need to keep building Tempest, or maybe, yeah, I'm not sure why negativeZero did pause its Tempest production for a moment there, but if it does want to win this Tempest fight, that's going to be very important. The cannon is keeping Xena alive right now. These cannons in this build are just so darn efficient. We've seen it keep it alive against Benbot for a long time, and now it's holding back the whole army of negativeZero. negativeZero does decide that it can make this trade, so the cannon does perish. However, the Tempest for Xena do come forward. They've got batteries to support them, and it's 4 Tempest in all, so they can really start popping units off. Stalkers getting chased away. The Tempest of negativeZero do shut down that cannon. Probes are actually going to be pulled into the fight for Xena as the blue Protoss bot just tries to hold on. Things behind this, though, are going to be alright for negativeZero, as it does have a third Nexus on the way, being the bot that generally expands quicker. Xena isn't known for rushing out expansions, being a cheesy bot. It's more rush-focused. And let's see, we do have charge on the way for the Protoss bot that could potentially allow Xena to take control of the ground, but pardon me, I'm not sure how long this Adept has been denying mining in the main base of Xena. Xena now retreating to, well, it pulls back its Tempest, realizing that there's just so much Protoss. 4 negativeZero probes being pulled into the fight, but mining being denied at the natural. Mining has resumed in the main base, so at least Xena will have a bit of an economy. It's important that it does keep pumping out these Tempests. Currently it's 5-4, which is a very close amount, but the Tempest of Xena are just not getting enough damage done. Like, they are firing so slow. They're definitely missing some shots, I feel. Like, if you have Tempest, you want them to be firing on their delay, which is, oh, it's 2.36. I mean, it's quite a very large delay on the Tempest firing, but, like, you want to have them firing every 2.36 seconds. There's no question about it. Looks like negativeZero will kill off the natural base, as its response to this Tempest rush is going quite well. And I think Xena is probably toasted, as there is 6 Tempest to 4, but then negativeZero is getting up to 3 bases. It's also making 2 Tempest at a time, so it has resumed Tempest production. I do wonder if that's like a decision the bot author made to say, hey, build as many Tempest as the opponent has, that kind of thing, but then it also goes into Stalkers, so that is an interesting question there. The Adept in the main does get taken out, but Xena has barely any economy. So ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this one, go ahead and click that like button. I promise I won't cast any more Xena Tempest games after this one. I think we've explored this build quite a bit. It just so happens that the games of Xena that run longer are usually the ones that involve Tempest, which is why we see some, which is why I've cast quite a few of them lately. I don't know what race Xena plays when I click on the replay, but it turns out we get PvP Tempest. And so, yeah, I'll maybe do some shorter Xena videos after this, cast games in which it probably has a better chance of winning with the, as it usually wins the shorter matches. Adept shading in for negativeZero as it keeps pressure on its opponent, but I think we're just going to fast forward a little bit until the end of this one. Tempest doing their thing. As it looks like negativeZero is trying to breach the front. Some good shots go off for Xena. Adept's constantly shading in for negativeZero. Those just get deleted, but there is still a lot of red Protoss outside the door. Batteries and cannons are holding the line. Xena is getting some good shots off with its Tempest. Those batteries are almost out of energy, so it will actually lose one of those critical Tempests. It can't afford to replace those. The Tempest are firing quite regularly now, but it does seem that that's just the case because Xena's Tempest are sort of homed right now. Like, usually these Tempests or at least from what I saw, they're not quite firing as often as they are in this situation right now, which I think is where the Tempest Rush may have lost some of its efficiency. I do not know. Anyway, these Tempests are still holding the line, but definitely eating some shots. The battery's out of energy. Xena will eventually, well, it could actually battery overcharge right now if it wanted to. This Adept is like a fox in a henhouse, getting 3 probe kills. Look at the probes fanning out away from the danger for Xena, but that Adept is determined to chase them down. The probes are like, keep away, as that Adept is causing problems, but it will get deleted by the Tempest, as Xena just continues to sit on 1 base. negativeZero is going up to 5 bases, doing everything right, macroing behind this. Somehow the blue Protoss bot is still alive, building another gateway, because why not? We'll fast forward a little bit more here. The Tempest for Xena do want to move out, however it gets blinked on by negativeZero. Good blink on the Stalkers. Tempest versus Tempest fight. I mean, Xena, let's take a look at the losses. It's 6 dead to 7, so despite having fewer Tempests, Xena has been trading pretty well with them, which you'd hope, seeing as how it's sitting on top of batteries and cannons, as the Tempest are still holding the line, picking off lots and lots of units, but there's just no way unless Xena ever gets out another base, and I'm pretty sure that will not happen, as negativeZero on 5 bases should be quite oppressive. Batteries are starting to go down, so that's critical repair or healing, shield regeneration factor being lost. And yeah, the Tempest fight is still going okay for Xena as it picks off another 2 of negativeZero's, as the red Protoss bot is like, okay, I need 4 Stargates to keep up with this, as it's very difficult to program an anti-Tempest play. negativeZero is poking in little bit by little bit. Eventually its opponent will run out of money, I think, as Xena, pardon me, is building a new battery, but it hasn't made too many more Tempests as it's just so darn broke. The main base will eventually mine out. 1 more Tempest is being made by Xena. It's holding on a very, very long time, as negativeZero is almost maxed out in this situation, but it still just hasn't amassed enough Tempest. Look at that. Xena killing off even more and more of the Tempest. I'm fast forwarding because I legitimately think there's no way for Xena to possibly win this game, but it's still getting some ridiculous efficiency with these Tempests. Eventually the main will mine out. Eventually it will lose buildings and not be able to replace them though. Adepts complete their shade. They're all going to go down. Xena says, initiating tactical repositioning. Tempest against Tempest, going to go the way of Xena. Xena's trades have been very disgusting sitting inside its main base, as it's killed off like another, oh gosh, it's killed off like another 15 Tempest or something in the past few minutes, as negativeZero does just keep feeding them in 1 by 1. The red Protoss will never run out of money in this situation, though, whereas Xena is just holding the line. I do wonder how long this can continue on. There is another Tempest coming forward for negativeZero, but Xena just keeps picking them off. As long as the Tempest for negativeZero keeps going in one by one, Xena will be fine, it seems. It even threw down a Stasis Ward, which is very comical amidst all this chaos. The Stasis Ward actually catches those Adepts. Xena continues to keep fighting, but oh, a Blink goes down for negativeZero. Xena is now out of money that it can mine. Adepts are getting killed in the middle of this. It's still 7 Tempest for Xena. That's the number to watch, but negativeZero is up to 4, but they just keep getting shot down. Eventually, negativeZero will win this game. If we look at the minimap, it's taking all the bases. This is the final stand for Xena as it just continues to try and hold on. Looks like negativeZero was pushing on in. There is only 2 batteries left and no money left to replace them. So eventually the red Protoss bot does breach the main base. Tempest are getting, of course, killing off more of negativeZero's Tempest, but the Stalkers, I don't think they can be handled by all these Tempests. negativeZero does manage to group up 3 finally. All the buildings are also going to die. The Tempest shall not save the day. They may actually survive past the end of this game, although as I say that, Stalkers move forward and start butchering them all. So well done to negativeZero taking this one. The bot with that's a little more well-rounded when it comes to dealing with this strategy does quite well. GG, thanks for watching.